Welcome back to the ChessKid Youth Championships. Today is the day when the winner will be decided. Only 4 players have advanced to the semifinals. They will be playing 2 mini matches, and there can only be one winner of the ChessKid Youth Championship. I'm your host, Grandmaster Daniel Radzimski, and alongside me today, once again, Jules Gambit. Jules, we didn't have long to wait. Yesterday's round finishes. Today's round begins. More action awaits us from these incredible young players.
Yes, it's wonderful to see you all. I think it's going to be really interesting today. We saw some very cool matches. I'm so excited to see who's going to win this tournament.
Well, there is a very clear favorite, and that is Yagiz Erdogmus. It is a mouthful to say, and he is a mouthful to play because he is 2560 FIDE, currently the youngest grandmaster in the world. He just turned 13 a couple of days ago, and he is way ahead in all indicators: rating, accuracy, blitz strength. So he is the man to beat as we take a look at the bracket. And he faces Aaron Mendes, who qualified via... How do I even describe, Jules, how Aaron Mendes was able to qualify yesterday? That was insane.
Well, yeah, it was crazy. Like, he was behind by 1.5 points, I believe, and then he just managed to come back, had almost a perfect rest of his tournament, and won this beautiful match at the end. I think he's also not one you want to underestimate. He's actually very, very strong. In the Menorca Open Blitz, he placed ahead of, I think, 9 grandmasters, so he can definitely perform way above his level.
Very dangerous player indeed is the Canadian Aaron Mendes. And on the other side of the semifinal, we have Henry Tudor, who is not from England. He is indeed from Romania, and he faces Antoni Radzimski from Poland. I will admit I had not heard that name before this tournament, but I'm sure we'll be hearing of him many times over. They face off against each other. The winners of these 2 matches face off in the final, and the format is very simple. It's a best of 4 with the time control the same as yesterday, 3 minutes per game with a 1-second increment, and some very nifty prizes being distributed. $1,500 for first place. But right now, we have a best of 4 matchup on either side. The winners face each other in the final. Jules, the stage is set. We're ready. Let's get the show on the road. What are your thoughts going into the semifinals?
Let's do it. I think really anything can happen. Of course, we have our clear favorite. But then again, all these kids are so rapidly improving that I'm excited to see what they can do on the board. So let's get to it.
Now, obviously, we'll focus most of our attention on the Erdogmus match. Once again, he is the one with an X on his back. He is the guy to beat. He is the only grandmaster in the field. So Aaron Mendes has to try extra hard. And Erdogmus is such a well-rounded player. You know, he's 13 years old. It's weird to talk about someone being well-rounded at 13, and yet he is. Excellent positional understanding, no obvious weaknesses, and a great opening repertoire that's very well suited for blitz. What a nightmare opponent for Mendes.
Yeah, he's also hungry for the win. I think even after qualifying for this tournament yesterday, he went on and won the bullet brawl. So he is just very sharp. He's on top of it.
Oh, I didn't actually realize that he won the bullet brawl yesterday. We were actually first commentating during the bullet brawl, and the very same Yagiz Erdogmus. He's not resting while the others are qualifying. He's winning other tournaments, and today he's going to try to win this tournament. As we set the table here, just a minute or so away from the semifinals. Both matches will be going on at the same time. So as we did yesterday, we'll be focused on this match, but we'll definitely be checking into the other match from time to time. I'll be keeping an eye on both boards, so we won't miss any of the interesting action, Jules.
No, I'm very excited to see both these matches. I'm also excited to see what kind of openings they have prepared. It's going to be an interesting strategy whether they go for aggressive chess or, like you said, some of the higher rated opponents yesterday tried a more like subtle positional means. What do you think they're going to do today? What do you think the strategy will be?
Well, I think Erdogmus is an E4 player, and he likes kind of more offbeat lines. If he plays a main line such as the Ruy Lopez, he likes to deviate with an early D3. So I think we're going to see Erdogmus really trying to put the pressure with the white pieces. And with black, he's very solid. So for Aaron Mendes, he, if I remember correctly, struggled a little bit with the white pieces yesterday against the French. So nowadays, you know, these kids are universal. They can play anything. They can choose an opening based on an opponent. It's not like the old days when you had one clear repertoire, you had one opening that only you could play that opening and no other opening. It's a very, very different situation now with a much more flexible approach to every stage of the game.
Yes, and we even saw that yesterday. I think someone was struggling with a bishop e2 Alapin, and they changed it up for the last round and did a completely different move just with the 5 minutes to prepare beforehand.
Indeed. And we are just about to get started. I think we're underway. We are underway. Welcome to the semifinals of the ChessKid Youth Championships. Yagiz has the white pieces, and he starts off with one c4. Okay, so a very placid beginning, and a Slav setup by his opponent, c6, and obviously d5 is coming next. We'll have a Slav.
And Danya, you said he's usually an e4 player. Have we seen the c4 from him before?
Yeah, I don't recall. I mean, I've played him a gazillion times by now in all-time controls. Yes, I seem to recall that he's played c4 a few times. I mean, mostly he's an e4 player, but I think that he understands where his superiority lies. I think he wants to take Mendes out of his preparation and just get a playable middle game and then just outplay him. I think that Erdogmus just wants to channel the game into a non-theoretical position where the better player will win, and that's exactly the kind of position that he's managed to get. It's not particularly theoretical. It's kind of a quiet Slav, and we'll see who possesses more positional acumen in the middle game.
Well, Danya, these positions don't stay quiet for long, especially with these players. So I'm excited to see the action happen. I think something's going to blow up pretty quickly.
There's two ways this could continue. White could castle kingside and play d4, and then we have ourselves a traditional Slav. Or like you said, Jules, White could play queen c2 and then send the g-pawn up the board. White could even do that right now. And this is why I think Erdogmus is spending so much time on this move. He's now spent something like a minute on this move, pondering which of the two kind of general approaches to take here. I would play queen c2, and so does he.
And so does he.
You said he flexibility.
You said he was a natural e4 player, so it makes sense he's going for this kind of aggressive stance, right?
Makes perfect sense. And, well, my vote is g4, but I'm also biased, and I'm crazy, and Erdogmus is not, and that's why he's probably going to win the tournament, and I'm not. He goes d4. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to play tactically. I mean, he could still play e4, and the position could still very much blow up. I don't like how Mendes has situated his pawns on the queen side. Very, very flimsy.
You don't like this pawn barrier here?
Not at all. c5. I like that move, though. Tension in the center. And still very traditional type of hanging pawn structure. I think white is a slight edge here.
And we talked a lot about these hanging pawns yesterday, about how you kind of have to play aggressively. But as black, can you really play aggressively in this type of position?
Yeah, not particularly. It's going to be hard. As white captures on c5, that's a big move. And black recaptures with a knight. Wow. So that simply grants white sort of a dream setup against black's IQP. Look at this knight sitting on d4. That knight is essentially immovable. And already I'm not liking the way that this is going for Aaron Mendes. I mean, the engine is not giving a big advantage for white, but it's a much easier position to play, Jules. Much easier position to play for white.
Yes, and Yagiz just has that positional understanding, as you said. I bet it's pretty scary to play him. Aaron Mendes knows he's playing the #1 seat in this tournament, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of nerves at play here as well.
And now white's threatening knight f5, and the move g6 is not a move that you want to play. It's a move that you want to avoid if you can, and he does. He plays queen e5. Now white, on the other hand, of course, is happy to play g3 and then tuck the bishop away on g2. I would also be happy with a queen trade. Queen f5 here looks like a great positional move, and he does drop his bishop back to g2. Also good. Knight e4, Mendes creating some tension, and Erdogmus is down to a minute on the clock. So that's the one, I think, big hope here for the Canadian player.
Yes, being down a minute is so important in these tournaments. We saw it yesterday. So many games were decided just by a little bit of time imbalance.
Yeah, white's now under a minute, and knight f5, fantastic move. Discovered attack against the bishop. And obviously this trade is going to be squarely in white's favor. Apparently black has to find the counterblow knight g4, which is a really difficult move to see. And Mendes settles into a think. He's in some trouble here concretely.
and maybe evening the time a little bit, which is his advantage. Okay, we see it, the rook d6 trade.
Yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Look at this monster of a bishop. Rook d1 is coming. White control. Oh, okay, he's going to take on f6. Very Russian schoolboy style by Yagiz. He just cripples black's pawn structure. Now he gets the rook to the open file. And now he's going to have, like, pressure for the rest of the game. This is essentially just two results for eternity because of black's terrible pawn structure on the king side, especially if the queens get traded.
Yeah, this kid is so good. I'm always in awe of him every time I see him play. I've had the honor to be in a few over-the-board tournaments with him, and he's just always on top of it. He rarely has a bad day.
On the other board, looks like Tudor has a big advantage against Radzimski, but this has been a very interesting game, and queen h5 there. A little bit impulsive by Erdogmus. This gives black a tempo, and Mendes uses it well. He doubles on the c-file, and he's saying, wait a second, I know there's all the hype around my opponent, but I ain't no fish either. Rook c5. Will he go back to c5 here with the rook? Or will he go pawn grabbing? I wouldn't advise that. That seems really, really risky. Could get checkmated.
Yes, and as we've said,
H3.
he's actually very, very strong at blitz. He hasn't been getting into a lot of time trouble in these past few games. He's still keeping up the time here as well with 48 seconds to 34 seconds, but it can even out soon, Danya.
Yeah, but he's going to get checkmated.
He's going to get checkmated?
Yes, I'm afraid so. Or either he's going to get checkmated or he has to trade rooks, both of which, I mean, the second option is slightly more desirable than the first. But the bishop from h3 is coming to f5. I think this is what the maneuver that black underestimated. No, now rook d7 and it's over. No, what is queen c7? That's just a nervous, panicky move. And it loses on the spot. No,
that is a tough start for Aaron Mendes.
You can't play moves like queen c7 and expect to have any chance against Erdogmus. He's going to eat this up. And he's going to take the first game with checkmate. Okay.
And we see it. So can Aaron Mendes come back round two? Yeah. All right. We're with Henry Tudor. Oh.
Also checkmate.
There we go.
Both games end in checkmate. Sorry, Jules.
And that is a win.
Continue.
No, that's a win for Henry Edward Tudor here. Very, very quick.
And on the other side, we have Erdogmus playing a French. And I think this is a very calculated move by the Turkish player. He saw that Aaron Mendes was not confident against the French yesterday. He had a couple of clunkers out of the opening. And immediately he just seizes on it. Let's see. I think the French is one of Erdogmus's main weapons. So he's pretty comfortable in this structure. What a strange line by white. I've actually never seen this before.
I haven't either. It looks like an advanced almost, but a little weird.
Yeah, I think the knight's probably going to come to f4 in this line. I'm not totally sure what the idea is. But I don't like it. I don't know what the idea is, but I don't like it.
He might just be trying to get Yagiz out of book here.
Well, he succeeded, I think. And he has to reroute this knight. Because this knight is... It's the bane of white's existence right now. Great move by Mendes, knight f4. So I guess this is sort of the main idea. You're kind of assembling these minor pieces on the king side. Eventually, you might see white going h4. And Yagiz Erdogmus just says, I don't care, bring it on. Castle's king side is... that's a brazen move, Jules. And it might also be a very bad move.
Yeah, it's... In these structures, it's very like checkmate lest you be checkmated. So I'm excited to see this pawn storm going. But he's very confident here. He didn't even take a lot of time to make that move.
Jules, the French sucks.
Really? Yeah.
It just sucks. I mean, look at black's position. Black is so cramped. You're getting mated, and it's move 10, and you've only merely developed your pieces. Only in the French can you meet such a nightmare fate, having merely developed your pieces to natural squares.
This is such anti-French propaganda here going on. I don't hate it. I don't hate the French, but I would take Danya's advice here. This does not look very pleasant for Yagiz in this position.
Yeah, it's just funny. I was just teaching at a camp in Atlanta, and I was playing some blitz with my good friend Peter Gianatos, whom you also know.
Yes,
and he's been a French player for his whole life. And at some point, he just like looks up and he says, this opening is terrible. The problem with the French is just is just you have so little space to begin with. And I personally suffer with openings where you don't have a lot of space. I mean, look at Mendes and how he's positioning his pieces on the king side. Very instructive for any kids watching. Knight g5 is essentially a pre-move. You're playing that move no matter what black does.
Even if h6, don't you get like some fun little traps there if you go knight g5? Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Let me show just one sample line as Erdogmus tries, I think, the most resilient option, rook e8 and knight f8. If he had gone h6, he would have still gone knight g5. And after h takes g5, h takes g5, white is threatening mate on h7. To intercept that mate, black has to play g6. But now you just simply crash through with knight takes g6. And bishop takes g5. There's a beautiful checkmate, knight e7 check.
Whoa.
Clearing the path for the queen to h7. But Mendes might have rushed it a little bit. He's got knight g5. Erdogmus drops his knight back to f8 and says, what you got, boss? I'm defending h7. King is defending f7. White can't go h5 because the knight will hang. My vote would be to lift the rook up to h3.
We're going to get some rook lifts here, see if they can lift here. But it's hard to checkmate with that knight on f8.
And excellent. Ooh, knight f3. Ooh. Just dropping everything back. Ugh. Queen c7 by Erdogmus putting pressure on the e5 pawn. A trade on f6. And now black is essentially back in business somewhat. His position is still terrible, but at least he's not getting mated in the near future.
Every single French player in the chat is just crying right now.
Yeah. And black is going to win this game, and then they're going to feel absolute redemption.
Vindicated.
Vindicated, and maybe that'll shut up the hater of a comment. The French hater, Radzimski. I don't know.
Yes.
It's obviously a good objective opening. I'm saying all of this in jest, but it is a difficult opening to play. And white is still better. Like black has gotten everything he's wanted, and still his position is full of holes. Mendes castles queenside. Knight is coming to g5, I think. No, but knight g5, maybe d4 is unpleasant. Yeah, maybe not. Okay. h6, fantastic. But okay. Erdogmus
I would love to see a
rook
lift eventually.
Watch out for a4, knight a5. Watch out for a4, knight a5, knight b3. This is very easy to miss. And he's played
and
it.
We see it, a4.
And obviously, Mendes understands what the point is, but it's not so easy to stop. And black can actually still go knight a5. He doesn't, but it was a possible move.
That's nasty. That's such an easy one to miss.
Bishop b6, fantastic. Mendes is playing a phenomenal game. Yeah. Right?
These players are both playing so well, and I really like White's position still, but there's so many tricks for black. There's so many traps.
And Erdogmus is incredibly resilient. Like, he's so slippery. I've had so many bullet games with him where I'm up material, you just kind of start chilling, and suddenly, like, wait a second, he's developed counterplay, and you start panicking. And this is exactly what he's trying to do. Bishop f5 check. This game is far from over. This is what grandmasters do. They don't just give up when they lose an exchange. Okay, so white can trade queens here, but I'm not sure who this favors, Jules, because black does have this very impressive pawn phalanx, which Erdogmus secures with b5. There was a threat of bishop takes c4 on the previous move.
Yes, but now, yeah, it doesn't seem as scary for white, but also Yagiz is so good in these endgames. You said he's very versatile. He's a very versatile player, so we do see that d4 move in here.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to blunder here with white. Bishop c2 is nasty.
Look at the time, Danya.
Yeah, white has kept a big time advantage, but Erdogmus is incredible with his last couple seconds. And look at what he's doing. Bishop b3 and d3, maybe. Rook b8 hitting the bishop. Rook b8 is a big move, and he's found it.
Where do you put your bishop here?
You don't. Bishop a6, rook a8. The rook is just going to keep attacking and harassing this bishop. And in order to play for a win, Mendes might have to sacrifice it eventually. There it is, rook a8, but bishop b5. And the problem is now rook b8 runs into rook takes c5, so black has to waste the tempo on this move. And the bishop is able to get out. Now it should be winning. Bishop f5 is crushing.
That would be a huge win for Mendes.
But I'm still a little bit nervous. I've been in a lot of these situations before, and it's never over till it's over. I mean, it's so easy to blunder. Oh,
okay, saves the piece.
Oh, he had rook takes e5. That would have won on the spot. But he didn't see it. Now Erdogmus is still in the game. Somehow, Black is still alive. It's
With
unreal.
5 seconds.
Rook
But
f7.
as the time evens...
Rook f3!
Whoa!
And Black is going to win. What is... Oh my God.
And the promotion! That is brutal.
What did I say? I've seen this happen.
Oh,
this has happened to me so many times. This is what he does. He doesn't give up. He just ties a knot and stays put.
Look at this.
Incredible.
And he's gaining back time. That was beautiful. He just saw it so quickly.
He saw that instantly, that little zinger with rook takes d3. And obviously, at that point, Mendes had already been losing the plot. That one is an absolute heartbreaker. Let's switch over to the other game where it appears that Tudor is going to lose. So Radzimski is going to rebound, and this match is tied 1-1.
Yeah, and Radzimski is one of those really fast improving juniors here. He's been doing really well, even though I believe Henry Tudor is the rating favorite. He's been doing very well, and I think he's just slightly underrated, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the kids were yesterday and are today, but Erdogmus can clinch the semifinal match with a draw, and he's got the white pieces. He's really displaying all of the facets that make him so special in these first two games. Not just, the standard set of skills, but we saw in that last game just the resilience, the tactical inventiveness when he's lost makes him so hard to play.
And just having all those tactics when he's so low on time, too. It's really incredible. He's just an incredible player here. And all the French players in chat are feeling very vindicated now that French is the best opening ever. So there we go. We got him to thank for that one.
I mean, frankly, I'm just not seeing any real competition for him in this tournament. I mean, Tudor and Radzimski are good players, but he's just a class above right now. And he's a chess professional. He plays like a chess professional. His opponents are still kids. They're incredibly talented. They're mature. Their styles show the elements of excellence, but they're still rough around the edges. But White in this game is just a polished professional chess player. You would not be able to tell that he's a kid when you watch his play. Like, there are no clues that tell you he's 13 years old.
And when they did the interview with him yesterday, he said he wanted to become world champion, and it's clear to see that if he continues on this path, he could get there. He's improving so quickly. He's playing very maturely. I'm very excited to see where his chess career goes in general.
Yeah, it's just hard to imagine, being a GM at 13. I don't even remember what I was doing at 13, but it certainly wasn't becoming a GM. I mean, it would be a miracle if I knew how to zip my own pants up at that age. And these kids are already traveling the world, close to crossing 2,600. It's pretty unfathomable how they just get younger and younger, and how the styles get more and more universal and mature at an earlier age. So here we have a sharp position, by the way, interesting position. And Erdogmus is again spending a lot of time in the opening.
Yeah, and I think he's learned, he needs his time, but he also is so quick under pressure. And you're right, at 13, it's just absolutely insane what he's able to do here. I think at 13, I was making up dances with my cousin in the backyard to convince my mom to give us a sleepover. He is just so focused, but also Aaron Mendes has a lot of talent. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back next year just ready to rumble. And when it comes to giving Yagiz some sort of competition, I think Henry Tudor will actually be very sharp here.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's doing well in the third game. So obviously that match is going to continue on, assuming that Yagiz doesn't lose this game, which he very well might. I mean, we saw Megan Paragua yesterday scoring a lovely victory against Yagiz, so he's beatable. But I just don't think that Mendes has the firepower, the tactical firepower, and the composure to do it. And that's no knock on him. His opponent is brutally strong. But Black is better here.
Yeah. I really like these bishops he has here. These bishes. I really enjoy these long diagonals. It looks very, very aesthetic. Very nice.
Wow, there was a crazy idea with bishop takes h2 check, but it was blunt. It was missed by Black. And now I think Yagiz could go either e4 straight away or knight takes d6 and then e4. And once he gets e4 and his bishop opens up, and I think the worst is behind him. Yeah, I mean,
There goes the
E4 right
bishops.
now. I would actually take on D6 first just to prevent any of these shenanigans on H2. And then play E4. Yeah.
And we see
Good
that.
stuff. Completely under control.
And it's just a little uncomfortable to open up these files.
Okay, bishop C2, very good. And bishop E3. No, white is not going to lose this game, though. White is playing essentially for 2 results now. And now white is winning. Because the knight is in huge trouble after the trade on C2. It just has no good squares.
He's just so sharp with this. Look at these tactics. Yeah, that knight looks very, very uncomfortable. And now it looks so much more comfortable. It's crazy how the position can change in like 2 moves.
Yeah, but now the rook C1, so professional, just stopping black from getting a rook to C8. Now white's controlling both important open files. The knight is just a dud. I mean, white's just going to trade and make a Luft square and just coast to victory in the semifinal.
And the craziest thing, Donya, is it's hard to see where he went wrong here. His moves just seemed very natural, but still you have to play so sharp in these positions.
Yeah, just a completely different category of player is Erdogmus. And yeah, I mean, Mendes, he missed an opportunity maybe here with bishop takes H2 check, but it's easy for me to say. It's easy to sacrifice other people's pieces. And here we see queen C7, trying to get the queens off the board. Obviously, white only needs a draw, so his decision-making is going to change based on the result required. Rook C8, though, is... I think that's all she wrote. I think... Wait, Rook H8 and Queen G8. Ooh. Nasty little construction. And this... Oh, King G2 also good. Also good.
I know, like, at my level, it's very tough to see these moves like King G2, like the little intermediate moves. You immediately want to be able to attack here. So he's just got so much patience. And Aaron Mendes has to work very hard to survive this position. It does not look very comfortable.
But the problem, even if he survives it, he loses the match because, okay, he pulls out a draw. Yagiz still gets to 2.5. It's depressing, but knight D8, ugh. Yeah, simply queen takes B4. Easy does it. Now there's a mate threat on H5. Black is losing all his pieces. Okay, E5, I think, only move. Maybe just H4.
Oh, that is brutal. Rest in peace, Aaron Mendes here. Oh! Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is all within the range of a winning advantage, and yeah, barring a mouse slip, white's going to win. I mean, I would go H4 and try to get a stronghold for the bishop on G5. He does have 6 seconds, does Erdogmus. Oh, it's a professional way to draw. Just going to swap a bunch of pieces. B5. Nerves of steel. B5. Just queen is hanging. I don't care because he's going to take black's queen.
He doesn't care about having 5 seconds.
It's over. He's going to take another pawn. He's going to take black's queen. And he's actually just going to win this game outright.
Yeah, I think Aaron Mendes sees it, letting his time drop down.
Oh,
there isn't much to do.
There's no threat. There is no threat. And it's over. Queen takes G7, trade of queens. And you could take the knight and make a stalemate. Doesn't matter. He wins the match, but he's going to win the game. He's not going to let that precious rating of his disappear down the drain. And a 3-0 victory.
Beautiful.
A wipeout by Yagiz Khan Erdogmus. And let's quickly go to the other game because we have a time scramble yet again in Tudor's game. Looks like Tudor's going to win this one.
And the person who wins this game is going to move on.
Oh my god. Queen G8! Queen G8! Queen G8!
Oh, and he misses it! He misses Queen G8 with 2 seconds, 1 second on the clock. Look at this time scramble, Donya.
But it's still winning. But at this point, it's all about just making the moves, and he is going to win. He's going to make a second queen. He did have that insta-win, but instead with 2 extra queens and now an extra minor piece and checkmate on the board, I think he's going to win. Okay, he's going to trade the queens, and jumps out to a 2-1 advantage.
We see it. Henry Edward Tudor, that means he's taken the match, right? No, first to 2.5. So he has 1 more game to go, correct?
He needs a draw or a win. Yes, and Radzimski needs to win this next game in order to tie the match and force the tiebreaker match, which will consist of 2 more games of 3+1. And then if that ends 1-1, then we have an Armageddon, much like we did yesterday. Okay, here we go. Next game is underway in English. Let's see if Henry Edward Tudor can come through clutch with the black pieces.
Yeah, and Tudor is not invincible. Antoni scored a win against him earlier, so it's perfectly in the realm of possibility that we're going to go to some sort of Armageddon match here as well. It would be exciting to see.
Yeah, and this is a pretty good setup by Radzimski here. He's got kind of a model English setup. Usually the knight in these types of positions moves around to c4. You can also play the move pawn a4 in order to solidify the weakness on b6. I actually don't like Tudor's last move at all. a5 is a really bad move because he's creating a massive target on b6, which white is already busy exploiting. Queen a4, knight c4, and Tudor is already in trouble right out of the opening.
Well, we'll see what happens here with these queenside pawns, but it's so easy to make these moves like b6. It's very instructional for me, and I think a lot of other players, to see these kind of weaknesses being exploited, because a lot of times you know your opponent makes a bad move, but you're not sure how to punish them for it.
And actually here, the important thing is that you're threatening to take on b6, but you're also threatening to take on e5 because the bishop on b7 is unprotected. So black can actually protect the b6 pawn with this awkward move, rook a6, but then he's going to drop the other pawn on e5. Now, there are crazy tactics that could happen here. If black plays this move b5, we would have had a total explosion. But Tudor does go for rook a6, and I think he does want to play b5. He just wants to play it on the next move. So still a lot of tactics on the board. This is far from a done deal.
And we're going to see him take on e5, I believe, right? We're going to see him try this tactic, but he's thinking a little bit. He's not really that down on time, so he has time to make these decisions, but time quickly ticks away, as we've seen.
Yeah, and there's no margin for error. Radzimski has to win this game. Knight takes c5 on the board.
Got it.
I think Tudor has to play b5. It's really his only chance is to stir things up on the queen side. Try to force white into blundering.
And there's all these tactical ideas.
And he's found it. Good job. Okay, still a game. Knight e6. I mean, black's got a lot of activity, and suddenly this rook on a6 is actually not so poorly placed. I would play knight c7 to e6, clamp down on the d4 square, try to get your pieces assembled in the center.
And you know, Danya, Henry Tudor is such a strong player. He only got his first FIDE rating 3.5 years ago, and he was 1200 rated. So he's gone from 1200 FIDE to, I think, over 2400 in under 3.5 years. So yeah, we'll see where he'll be next year, too.
That's unbelievable talent, honestly.
Crazy.
And the crazy thing is that there's a lot of stories like that. Yeah, he's 2403 FIDE. So he's international master level, and he was 2239 in February. And he was 2168 a year ago. So he is just like, this guy's unstoppable.
Yeah, we'll see him next year, and he'll be 2560, which is why I think if he manages to win this, which it's looking like that might not happen, he would be a tough opponent for Yagiz.
Yep. I mean, he needs to keep his tactical vision under control. I think this is his biggest Achilles heel. He tends to miss sometimes, you know, these concrete tactical opportunities, and he's definitely not as good as Yagiz in time scrambles, but definitely, I mean, he's the second strongest player in the field in terms of over-the-board rating. So he's got the class and he's got the level to put up a serious fight. Okay, so Radzimski is on the move here in the driver's seat. Bishop to d2. Nice little move. Preparing potentially the march of the f-pawn, which could end up winning a minor piece. But Tudor says, I'm going to complicate. Tudor is complicating the game. He's just trying to create chaos on the board.
Which he's managing to do here. And Radzimski's a very, very versatile player. He's good in all-time controls. So I'm actually surprised to see what he's going to do. I think he just needs to kind of keep control on the position, and he can win this. But we also saw, like, positions that were maybe even this unbalanced go to the other opponent in this match alone, like this tournament.
Listen, all it takes is one blunder. All it takes is one blunder, and
he's thinking.
And he's played the knight back to c6. Now the d3 pawn is hanging. White at some point can try to just open up the center, but right now Radzimski is just sitting on the position, tickling black's pieces. Tudor is honestly hanging by a thread here. And this rook on h6 is offsides. His pawns are all weak. He's lacking a light squared bishop. Black is actually totally lost here. He's just hoping for this to become a time scramble and for white to make a blunder. But
He's down
objectively,
on
white's
time.
position is totally dominant.
Yeah, you just can't take too much time thinking. You don't want to even out the time if you're Radzimski. You want to keep the pressure on. You want to make your opponent think. I think he's doing a very, very good job of that here, Danya.
Yes, he's actually playing great. Bishop c3. Now, I would play b4 here if I were Tudor, which I'm not. I'm actually Bourbon. No, just kidding. I'm a Habsburg. Okay, bishop c3. Lockjaw. Okay, b4. b4. Tudor has to move. He's spending way too long. I mean, he's lost, and when you're lost, you just got to trust yourself and trust your instincts. He's got himself down to 10 seconds. I don't see this happening for him until he equalizes the 7 seconds. Move!
6 seconds! And he's just frozen in place, and then he gets g5! That is a panic move.
I love this. I mean, I like this move. He mixes up the position, but it would have been great if he had played this move 20 seconds ago. Now he doesn't have any time to calculate anything. And he's doing a great job nonetheless. Queen g4, though, might seal the deal. b3. Got to take on f4. Takes on d4. Still in the game. 2 seconds on his clock. Bishop f6.
1 second.
Hitting the queen.
He's not ready to flag today.
No. And watch out, Jules, because queen d5. Knight takes e3. Oh, he had a tactic. He had knight takes e3.
With 1 second on the clock.
But he's just like focused on making the move. He's not focused on tactics. He had another tactic there. He's going to flag. He's got to move. Gives up the exchange.
Yeah. But the time is equalizing. He just needs to move. 0.2 seconds, Danya. He was 0.2 seconds away from flagging.
Ooh, rook h5, checkmate. Rook g4. Tudor still surviving. And the knight drops on a3. Bang.
He's been 0.2 seconds away from flagging so many times here. He's just...
Oh! Rook h8! No! Rook h8! Rook h8! Oh my, no, Tudor just completely collapsing here. And he had his chances in that time scramble. Rook h8. And black is winning. Because there's
insane.
a mate threat on h1. And white's rook is hanging. And the only way to defend against that mate is to play f3 and give up this pawn with a huge attack. So, unreal. As
when you're
Tudor,
in survival mode.
Yeah. He just couldn't pull it off. And a great win by Radzimski. And we're tied, which means we have 2 more games.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes down here. It seems they're very evenly matched in this time control today. As we've said, Radzimski is such a versatile player. Henry Tudor is definitely the stronger one overall, but it seems like Radzimski's so good at keeping his cool under time pressure.
Yeah, it just seems like his time management is superior. And Radzimski does have white once again, so he's got 2 whites in a row. And they're repeating this line, which did not end well for Tudor. And his big mistake was actually playing a7, a5. That's what set everything off. If he can avoid that move and just complete his development, probably not bishop b7, actually, because of knight takes e5. Maybe bishop to d7. Then black is actually completely fine here. Maybe even slightly better.
Well, he
Don't
knows...
play a5.
Yeah. He knows that his position was uncomfortable before, but you don't have time to analyze between these games. So he has to think of something completely new to do, which is not very easy.
And he does. But now the question, can white push b4 and open up the queen side and sacrifice a pawn and get the initiative? And that's probably where Radzimski is thinking about right now, because this is one of the main ideas of the line. Like, often you see white going like knight d2 and f4. And on the queen side, you sometimes see white sacking the b pawn in order to open up the c file, because a lot of black's minor pieces are really, really loose on that c file. Because knight a4, don't like it. Bishop b7.
Danya, would you say in these calmer lines, you go for a lot of queenside play very often?
Yeah, typically in this line, white's play is focused on the c file, which is why he played knight a4. But he was telegraphing his threat. I mean, it was clear what he was threatening. Black has an opportunity to prevent it. Now a5 is actually quite decent, because the b6 pawn is well protected. It's a totally different situation. And he could even stick the knight on d5, going for the bishop pair. Black is better. Black is clearly better.
Yeah, we're seeing this kind of transform a little. And this match is 1-2, correct, Danya? So there's not a lot of room for error. You really want to win this one, or at least draw. Otherwise, you're going to have some sort of miracle comeback.
Yeah, loss with white would be devastating. just because Tudor is very, very solid with white. He's not easy to beat. And there's only so many on-demand victories that you can score in a tournament. Knight to c4. Okay. So obviously b5 has to be calculated. But I don't think it works. White can wiggle his way out maybe with knight. There's actually several ways to wiggle out after b5. So this does not win a piece. But I think Tudor might be tempted by it. Bishop e6, great move. Solido.
And you think the knight's just going to drop back, avoid all the threats, but he doesn't seem to be a very scared player here. He seems to really be confident in his calculations.
Yeah, knight c3. I mean, white is still, nothing catastrophic has happened. White's position is still very solid, but black has a huge space advantage. Black controls a lot of important squares in the center, and white's basically never going to play b4 in this game. So this is a very hard position to play in blitz because white has no easy plan. And so you have to keep manufacturing ideas, which is not easy. But actually, wait a second, Jules. Queen b3 is a really heads-up move by Radzimski. He's actually trying to provoke b5. And b5, there would be a trade on d5, and then knight takes a5. And that's actually a huge threat. Bishop takes d5, and knight takes a5. It's not easy to defend against that threat.
I see, Danya, because the queen is hanging. So I think they have such sharp tactical vision here. But what do you do in this situation? Just drop back?
Great response by Tudor, and this is why he put his rook on d8, so that knight takes a5, the queen isn't hanging, and you can just recapture the knight. Yeah, good eye by Tudor.
Now the queen looks a little clearly better rough on b3 now.
Yeah, it's a liability, and maybe you just force the queen trade while you still have a chance.
And Tudor's the one who's up on time. He's been struggling with his time management this whole tournament, even yesterday a little bit. But here he's kind of keeping control in that time.
Yeah, plus 30 seconds is what you want to aim for. Queen to b5. Okay, so he's... again, white is making these pretty much superficial threats, hoping for some sort of an oversight. But Tudor is staying on top of the threats. Queen e6, great indirect defense. Now you can't take on b6, obviously for many reasons, such as knight a7. Discovered attack against the knight. No, but white is at a dead end here on the queen side. You've got to reshuffle, regroup.
Yeah, this looks like the pieces are just very poorly placed. It's difficult. It's like what we said earlier. It's hard to see where this exactly went wrong, and it's still definitely not lost, but this doesn't look like it would be very easy to play for white.
But Tudor is, again, burning time completely unnecessarily. This is not a big decision. He goes knight d4. Not sure why that was necessary. He trades, but this trade is clearly in white's favor. I mean, white can now go a4 and get the light squares on the queen side. And, if Tudor loses this match, I think the big culprit is, the fact that at some point in the middle game, he sometimes goes into these long thinks, and that really, really costs him in the time scramble. Now, I would trade on d7, play a4. Very important. Do not allow black to start moving these queenside pawns. a4 is like automatic. And
he does it.
Stuff by
a4. And Danyo, when a position's cramped, should we be trading pieces or should we be leaving the pieces on the board?
Well, the typical advice is to trade pieces, which is essentially what white has done. He was super cramped. There were a bunch of trades, and all of a sudden it doesn't feel like white is cramped anymore because he's not. And suddenly white is getting tons of activity on the e-file. Okay, he protects the pawn. Maybe that was unnecessary.
And we see the time coming down for Henry Tudor.
20 seconds to 30 seconds. Now Radzimski up on the clock.
The Tudor dynasty might fall.
It might, but it's going to be close. Now 20 seconds for white. The time equalizes. We're going to get another old school time scramble here. And it's anybody's game. The position is approximately equal. It's really who blunders last. That's going to be the key question. That's going to be the loser. Who blunders first? Who blunders last?
And this queen over on h5. Oh, he who lasts longest. Yeah, with this queen on okay, queen's not on h5 anymore.
Ooh, rook d4 is a nasty move. But Tudor plays conservatively. Rook e8. Queen b5. Now f5. Oh, there's tactics on the e file. f5 would have been very strong. Now f5 is a huge threat. f5 is a huge threat. But black can't play it. That would blunder the queen. 2 seconds for Tudor.
7, 6, 5. 1 second. Come on, Tudor. Oh, he's down to 0.4 seconds again.
And again, this pawn on b3 was hanging on the previous move. He could have captured it. But, okay, we're going to get a queen trade. No, he blunders his queen. He just left his queen on pre.
No.
Oh, my God.
That is rough. With so little time on his clock.
I think he just sort of forgot to trade. Like, obviously, he saw that the queen is hanging. He just sort of forgot to take the queen first, and then he wanted to play knight e4. He accidentally played the second move first. It happens in time scrambles, and that is a gift. The Tudor dynasty lives on, and don't breathe because the next game is underway. And now Radzimski has to win with black to force Armageddon.
It is not a position he wants to be in.
Very tall order. Very tall order for Radzimski.
And, you know, already you see Henry Tudor moving faster. I don't think either of these players really enjoy these time scrambles very much. It doesn't seem like to be their strong suit here.
Now, this is a very well-known line. It's called the triangle system. White sacrifices a pawn for the bishop pair and a big initiative. Black actually has to know a ton of theory here in order to basically not lose, because this bishop is a monster and it's preventing black's king from easily castling to the king side. So here, I'm pretty sure queen takes g2 is supposed to be the topical move, grabbing a second pawn. Obviously, white has bishop f3 in response. It's a very messy position, and I think Radzimski was just trying to remember his preparation. Queen to d2, sacking the rook in the corner and preparing to castle queenside. Jules, black is in big trouble if he doesn't know exactly what he's doing here, and it feels like he doesn't because of his time consumption.
Yeah, but, you know, it's also very bold to take that g2 pawn, so maybe he does remember a little bit. Otherwise, it would be tough to see someone taking that kind of risk. But this does not look comfortable for black if he doesn't know exactly what to do, like you said. So what would black do here to survive?
Well, black needs to liberate this bishop. Like, you will not go very far if you're playing without a queenside. So in a lot of these positions, black just has to throw the e-pawn up to e5, just give it away. If the bishop captures it, then you're able to castle. And if it doesn't, then you're able to bring the bishop out to e6 and potentially castle queenside, which is a legal move in chess. So black actually is aiming for queenside castles rather than kingside castles. Tudor plays queen e3. Okay. That's an interesting move. Now, e5, apparently, according to the computer, that's not an easy move to play at all.
E5.
Not at all. Just laughing in the face of dangers. Take me with check. No, but this is not the way. Knight e2.
But both players seem to be a little bit out of book here, just like as you said, by their time. But we see knight e2 here. This is going to be tough.
Yeah, remember, black needs to win this game. You're not satisfied with the draw. And I actually think black might be losing here simply because you missed your opportunity to play e5. White's next move is castles queenside and checkmate on the dark squares. I mean, just take this guy, go rook g1, take the pawn on g7, and it's a massacre on the dark squares.
So, Danya, in these kinds of positions, you just want to survive long enough to take advantage of your extra material, which it doesn't look like black's going to be able to do here. His king's out in the center. It just looks so uncomfortable. And we see exactly what you suggested. Rook g1 here. Queen's forced to drop back or take the pawn.
Well, then black gets mated.
So gross. Yeah.
Queen takes c4, queen g5 is a good illustration of just how bad the dark squares are in this position. You literally just get mated in two. Like, there's nothing you can do. So black has to play the super awkward move, queen h4. No, it's dead lost. Black is completely lost here, and excellent preparation by Tudor. It looks like he's going to take the semifinal and face Erdogmus, the big boss in the final. But a little bit of concentration required to finish this one off. Just take the pawn.
And this is every player's worst nightmare, me included, is losing out of theory. No one likes losing out of theory. You always want to be able to have a good game. So I can tell that Radzimski's probably just not very happy with this. This is not how you want to lose.
Yeah. He was just never in the game. And white has many ways to All roads lead to Bucharest here. Castle's queenside, excellent move. Black also cannot castle queenside because a7 falls. Another problem on the dark square. And in a classical game, Black would resign here.
Oh, but you have to try. You have to
ends.
keep going.
Rook g5 ends the game instantly because queen f6 only move, and then bishop e5, and he finds it. Phenomenal play. That's it.
This is beautiful. Yeah, and I think we're going to see Henry Tudor in these finals. And, you know, it's two prodigies against each other. Henry Tudor, very clearly a prodigy, only been really playing FIDE-rated chess for 3.5 years against Yagiz, which everyone knows he's a prodigy. He's been doing so well, youngest grandmaster. So it's going to be a really, really interesting match. But you're right, he has to finish it off here. How's he going to do it? Just take pieces, keep control.
Yeah.
And
obviously, some finishing touches required, but he's up a full rook. So he would have to blunder an entire rook for Black to have any chances in this game. He's also up a minute on the clock, so just f4. Okay, this is easy. This is too easy for a 2400.
And we see it, f4. As someone said yesterday in chat, these kids don't miss anything. You really can't assume they'll blunder anything.
Of course he sees it. Now, obviously, Erdogmus is the much better player, the much better blitz player. So to win this match, Tudor would need a combination of really good play and nerves from Erdogmus, which, you know, is possible. We've seen these kinds of upsets in the past where a player just coasts through the entire tournament and then meets his match in the finals. There's a big X on Erdogmus's back. Everybody wants to be that guy who beat him. And Tudor's no exception.
Yeah. And Danya, do you get this too, where when you face a higher rated player like Henry would be facing Erdogmus, do you just get very nervous as well, or do you think time has prepared you against that?
Well, it depends on the player. I mean, some of the top guys like Hikaru or Magnus, yeah, you just feel butterflies in your stomach no matter what, because you feel like you might make a fool of yourself, and you don't want to make a fool of yourself in front of, you know, someone whom you admire. So you're just kind of focused on not blundering, and sometimes you're overthinking. And yeah, definitely, you never outgrow those butterflies in your stomach, particularly when you're playing on camera and you know that tons of people are watching, and that's a tough atmosphere to play well in, which is why experience is so important.
Yeah. And they don't have really this experience either. But yeah, you definitely see it. It affects your play. And we see a win from Henry Tudor, so he will be joining Yagiz in the finals.
Well played. Well played by Henry Tudor, who joins Yagiz Erdogmus, who simply ran over Aaron Mendes 3-0. There was a brief scare in the second game, Jules, but ultimately the French prevailed. And it's going to be Erdogmus versus Tudor, the two highest rated players in the final. Not a surprise.
So you heard it here. Danya recommends the French now. Mind changed, I'm sure. It will be a really, really exciting final. I am so excited to see what happens. I think we could see some surprises.
Absolutely. It's only a 4-game match, so anything could happen. Stay tuned. Before we go to a break, we wanted to remind you that tickets to this year's SCC Live Finals in Paris are officially on sale. For the first time ever, you are invited to join the SCC's 4 finalists as they compete in person for the crown. All tickets will get you in the room with our live commentary team, plus perks like streamer booths and raffles, and you can level up your ticket tier, unlock the VIP lounge, player meet and greets, and more. Early bird pricing will last until the end of the month only. That's one more day. So head to go.chess.com/SCC tickets or use !tix, !tix in chat to book your seat at the historic finals. Who will book his seat as the champion of the ChessKid Youth Championship? We will find out on the other side of this short break.
Well, it's time. Fun Master Mike is here for the worldwide premiere of Sour Chess. My opponent today is going to be Inya. Inya, how are you? Ready to eat some sour stuff?
Yeah.
Do you like sour stuff?
No, I don't.
Okay, this is going to be hard for you then, okay? When you capture a piece, you get to make your opponent eat something sour. We have a whole range, and we're going to get to that. All right, are you ready, Inya?
Yeah.
All right, well, good luck. All right, let's get some Sour Chess on. Kind of want to start with fun, so, okay, I'm going to play this just because we want the sour to begin. Okay, we'll pause the clock. We're gonna save the Japanese umabashi for the victor. Inya, where are we going first? Okay, we're gonna go for the toxic waste. All right, so toxic waste, Fun Master Mike is gonna dig in. It could be like a watermelon type color. Let's see. Okay, I think you have to get past the first part. I hope it's gonna get better. Well, this is like a hard candy. But it's getting worse. Okay, it's not getting better. It's definitely getting worse. I think we're gonna continue the game with this in my mouth. It'll take a while. Okay, here we go. Guess what? What? You're not done yet, my little lady. This could be worse because, okay, that smell, if it's soft, I'm not sure if it's soft. But if it is, you can like bite like a half of it or a quarter of it. Is it soft? Okay, it is soft. Let's see how this goes. Okay, her lips are blue. And pickles aren't even blue. Yeah, okay, I don't know who your dentist is, but I think he's gonna stay in business after this. Have some water, have some water. Okay. And we're gonna repause again. Okay, where are we going? Extreme sour, okay. Well, watermelon in real life. Okay. It's pretty bad. The beginning roll is fun. It's like taking a Band-Aid off. The beginning is the worst part. Wow.
Welcome back to the ChessKid Youth Championships. GM Daniel Erdogmus alongside Jules Gambit hosting the finals for you as two very special young players, the Turkish newly minted 13-year-old Grandmaster Yagiz Erdogmus and his formidable opponent, Henry Edward Tudor of Romania, who is over 2,400 FIDE, will take on each other in a best-of-4 final to take the money home. Jules, obviously, Erdogmus the heavy favorite, but Tudor is not here by accident.
And Danya, this is a match between two prodigies. These are two amazing players. We're going to be hearing their names much more in the future. So I'm really surprised to see what's going to happen here. I'm wondering if there's going to be an upset, but Yagiz has just really taken control over every single game he's played this tournament.
Yeah, he's got just the right set of skills. Fantastic blitz player. He won Bullet Brawl yesterday. So he is the best time scrambler among these players by a country mile. And to me, this is maybe the biggest soft spot for Henry Tudor. He just doesn't seem quite as comfortable with only a couple seconds on his clock. Yagiz plays some of his best chess with 2-3 seconds on his clock. So we'll see how the Romanian player will approach this match. Obviously, a draw or a win in the first game will go a very long way toward establishing that confidence and sowing the seeds of doubt in Erdogmus's mind. But it's a tall order to even beat him a single time.
It's essential that Henry Tudor keeps a lot of time on his clock, and he's going to know this, but it's very difficult in these situations, especially against someone like Yagiz.
Yeah, chess is like the epitome of a game like tennis where the coach can yell something from the coach's box, hit harder, serve better, play faster, play better, play more aggressive. But ultimately, the only person who handles his pieces is the player, and you can know all of these things objectively, and yet putting them into effect against someone as tricky as this Turkish prodigy is very difficult indeed. Very few have managed to do that. Okay, about to get started here.
All right, let's see exactly what's going to happen. What kind of opening do you think we're going to see from Yagiz here?
He played c4 against Aaron Mendes, but I also think that's because he was deliberately trying to avoid theory. Against Tudor, I think e4 is probably a more attractive option. I think Yagiz is going to try to make things very tactical. His opponent is definitely, for a kid, very positional. Compared to most 12, 13-year-olds. And Yagiz, he likes those cagey tactical positions with lots of tricks. So I think he's going to try to unbalance the game, and 1e4 is the perfect way to do that. But you never know. I mean, c4 has been his choice this tournament. He might repeat it. I don't think the opening is necessarily going to decide the game. And yeah, he does play e4.
And we see it, e4. Hopefully we don't see any Alapins today. Yeah, not really his style.
Najdorf? Yes, a Najdorf.
Look at that. We're going to have a very sharp game here. And we've seen Henry Tudor, as you've said, he's played almost every endgame perfectly. He's very strong in an endgame, especially for a kid who, as we've talked about before, the old rumor is that they're not as good at endgames, but both these kids are very good at everything they're going to do here. So we're going to get a really sharp position, Danya.
Okay, so this is a mainline Najdorf. I really hope that Henry has an opening Tudor, because there is reams of theory that Black has to remember to play this line well. Two main moves, h6 and b5. He plays h6, which has been very topical recently. h4, knight b6. This line was recommended by Anish Giri in his Najdorf course, so a lot of people started playing it. But then, as often happens, White found a lot of very tricky ways to pose problems in this line. The old move here, I think, was queen to b6, and g5 is a refuted line that used to be pretty popular. But yeah, knight b6, to my knowledge, is the only feasible move, and I don't like that Tudor is sinking into a think here. That tells us that he's out of his comfort zone, maybe out of his preparation at precisely the wrong moment.
And we saw this yesterday. I think he even made the comment, I think he might be experimenting with his Najdorf. This might not be an opening he's super comfortable with yet.
Well, that's very clear from this move, because this is this is the kind of blunder that you make when you're first exploring the opening, and it's not obvious why it's a blunder. And even Erdogmus is taking his time, but I think he will play bishop takes b5, sacking the bishop for 3 pawns. Okay, he plays g5, actually, which is disapproved of by the computer. Bishop takes b5 was essentially winning for White. I still like White's position here, but Tudor is back on track with an excellent queen jump to c5.
It's very hard to punish some of these mistakes. especially if you're just going by principles. But I think it gives him a chance to get back into the game, which personally I'm very happy about. I'm really excited to see such a sharp game, something very instructional as well for these positions.
Yeah, very complex structure. White is, again, Erdogmus, he was doing this in the previous match, taking a lot of time in the opening and early middle game. That's just his shtick. He just does that. And then he accelerates and starts playing incredibly well. So he lulls his opponent into this false sense that, oh, he's playing slowly today. No, that's just what he always does. And okay, rook d2. I don't like black's position here. I still feel like there's a lot of weaknesses. It's hard to find a good spot for your king. And
Yeah,
okay,
b5. Where do you castle? How do you castle here if you're black? You don't, right?
You don't. You don't. Yeah, you keep your king in the center and hope for the best. But at some point, white can just smash through with f5. Or even g6 is a very typical move in these types of positions, just trying to, induce as many weaknesses in black structure as possible. And there it is, g6.
We see a g6.
Played it. Maybe short castle, actually. Yeah, short castle here, apparently very strong move. Not easy to play, though. Not easy at all.
That is so scary. Just right casting into this onslaught. And we see it. They are not afraid of anything, Danya. Nothing.
And the way that Tudor has positioned his knight on b6, that knight is ready to jump into c4 at a moment's notice, which is why white's bishop should probably stay on this diagonal, like maybe gf7 and bishop d3. I wouldn't put the bishop on h3 here and allow this knight jump to c4. Whoops, sorry, he didn't play that. He took on f7. And bishop h3 is played. Wow, really provocative. Very provocative play by white.
Tudor is not really afraid of anything here, and Yagiz is trying to call his bluff a little bit, but I'm not really sure there is a bluff here. It's still hard to see because, when you have eval on, it's very easy to see that you're not losing, but it's scary. It's scary for black here.
So far, though, this has been, by and large, with the exception of b5, fantastic play by Tudor. He's gotten what he wanted. He's better with black, up 40 seconds. He has to make this game count. You just cannot afford to blow this one. Even though it's just game one, you got to set the tone if you want to score an upset. And maximum tension now. Look at this. Both pairs of rooks are doubled on their respective files. Now, obviously, you can't take on f4 because of rook takes g7. So black should just tighten the screws with a move like knight c4. He moves his king away. Okay,
doesn't want to get mated.
But rook g6 is a very nasty move here.
Why would rook g6 be as scary?
Well, I was trying to set up a mating combination on h6, but Yagiz is thinking in a completely different direction. Down to knight d1, back.
Both players, it's scary. Both players are trying not to get mated here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of, again, avoiding big blunders. And Yagiz is just better at that than everybody else in this tournament. He might even be flirting with the concept of b3. As crazy as it sounds, allowing a check on a3, but the knight holds the b2 square. So Tudor now down to 30 seconds, and the time equalizes. You know what that means?
It means it favors Yagiz. Yeah. Would you say he's even better in these time scramble positions than he is when he has more time on his clock?
Yeah, he is. He is. Once he feels that fire under his belly, like I have to start moving, it's like he activates the sixth gear. It's like, okay, now it's now or never, and he thrives in that situation. And we'll see. We'll see it in action here.
And we've seen it even with his bullet brawl win yesterday. He is just amazing in these kinds of positions. But Henry Tudor is keeping on the pressure. He's showing an incredibly strong performance. He does not have any anxieties. You're skeptical?
Yeah,
you think
but
he's
I'm
gonna
skeptical.
collapse?
He's down to 10 seconds, and f5, rook g6, rook h6. I feel like he's losing the plot here. And he's not going to have enough time to figure anything. Rook takes g7 is a straight-up mate threat.
He cannot get on increment here, especially since the increment is just 1 second.
And now the knight's coming in, knight e3, knight g4. Yagiz suddenly very much in the driver's seat. He takes the pawn simply. Okay, good move. Maybe not a good move. I don't know. Now we've got a time scramble. Here we go.
All right, we're going to see it.
Queen e5, threading mate in 1. Yagiz sees it. Queen d3, pinning the rook. And this is what he does so well. Queen takes e4, and it's over. Or rook takes g7. He blundered a queen.
And this is what you said. This is why he can't get into these time scrambles with Yagiz.
And he
It is
lost
just so tough.
instantly. The moment they got into a time scramble, it was over. So for Tudor, he just has to find a way to avoid this, and he couldn't because position was too complicated.
Yeah, and he was just playing so well. It was clear that he was almost evenly matched with Yagiz for everything but this time scramble, and that is such a huge disadvantage to have in this type of competition, where you just have to avoid time scrambles with your opponent.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking, heartbringing.
Tough loss, but he has the white pieces, and obviously, already with his back against the wall, Tudor needs to try to score a victory here with white. We had a weird opening, knight f6 and b6, sort of hyper-accelerated Queen's Indian. Considered to be slightly dubious, but not a terrible opening. And actually, the way that Tudor is playing this, he's got to be very careful not to overextend in the center.
Is that really a thing, hyper-accelerated Queen's Indian?
I just invented that. I don't actually know what
I love it.
It is called the accelerated Queen's Indian. Accelerated Queen's Indian, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, chess opening names need a little bit more originality. We're too by the book, I think.
Oh yeah, Frankenstein Dracula isn't original enough for you.
That's true. Yeah, we need more of those to attract people. Knight b to d7, knight e5 coming in. Typical situation where the engine always gives a big advantage for white because of the space advantage, but in reality, black's pieces are actually really, really active. So in blitz, this is a pretty decent line, I think. Like
Yeah,
knight
it will.
g4, knight e5, black's knight's jumping around.
It'll be interesting to see how this goes. The bishop looks a little cramped, but it won't be for long. He's taking a bit of his time, but as we've seen, he doesn't actually need his time. I think you could give him time odds and he might actually win more, it seems like, at this point.
Yeah, he's got the Grishuk style. Like he slows down in the opening. He takes his time calculating, the early critical moves, and then suddenly he just switches it on. C6, that's what he was calculating. Obviously a very committal move, trying to pry open the center, get that bishop working. Okay, rook b1 though, great move by Tudor. He's setting up b4. That will win the bishop. And Erdogmus might actually have to give up a pawn with b5 to extricate that bishop. Ugh.
Oh.
No, I don't think this works. I don't know. This is looking very flimsy for black. b4? What is he doing? b4
Does that
and
work?
white
Can
wins a
you capture on
piece.
c4?
Oh, he plays cd,
Ooh.
which is obviously also fine. White is still much better, but now black can at least play b5. I don't know. Gotta go b5. Only move.
And he's thinking here. Yeah, I mean, Henry Tudor is an extraordinarily strong. I believe he won the Romanian Youth Championships at just age 12, and that is one where anyone under age 20 can join. So
Yeah.
these are both prodigies. You do not want to underestimate the Tudor dynasty here.
Not at all. But knowing Erdogmus, he's going to go knight g4. I've played him enough times to know where his mind is at. He does go b5, but knight g4 at the right moment might be a nasty little zinger. Instead, he focuses on eliminating the d-pawn. Now look at his bishops. Obviously, white can capture one of them, and maybe white should capture on c5. And white is up a pawn here. Clear, healthy pawn. But tons and tons of work to do if white wants to convert this into a full point. The hardest part of the game is still ahead, unfortunately, for Tudor.
But Tudor is keeping up his time, which is so important after last round. I think he needs to stay at least 30 seconds above Yagiz to be in a safe zone. What do you think, Danya?
I agree. That's a good call. Right now, he's 45 seconds over. So he's within the green
The safe
zone.
zone.
Okay, knight b6 maybe. Black just has to try to keep his pieces active and hope for some sort of an oversight. Yeah, okay. I mean, I think practically speaking, black's pieces are rather well placed, and obviously white has these connected passers, so any endgame is going to be just dead loss for black.
Yeah, and look at that weak pawn there. But these bishops can be surprisingly tricky, long-range bishops.
Which is why you should trade off one of them if you have the chance. And you have the chance right now with bishop to d5. And you don't know when you'll have another chance. So it's a much better idea than to go pawn grabbing and subject yourself to a strong counterattack.
But Danya, pawn grabbing is so tempting. You see a pawn, you want to take it.
And Tudor is spending now a long time on this move, which is precisely what Erdogmus wanted when he played knight d7. He wanted to get Tudor thinking, and he goes knight d5. Okay, that's a logical move, but it doesn't create any threats, and I think Yagiz can just centralize his own knight.
We see it, knight d5.
Suddenly, bishop a6. Okay, this is what he starts doing. He starts generating these chances, and suddenly things get very messy all of a sudden. Queen h4 is coming in. I'm starting to get a little bit worried here for White's king.
Yeah, that's why those bishops, they're so tricky, and I would not want to allow Yagiz to have any pieces, honestly. But this is very, very scary. Okay, we see the trade, but is it really good right now, Danya, to be doing this trade?
Probably not, because, well, he does trade. No, that was a very bad move, because c4 is now a huge threat. That's actually why Yagiz played rook b8. Now he's going to deploy his queen to f6, or to b6. Yeah, very good move. And black now, I think, has full compensation for the pawn.
And we're no longer in the safe zone.
Bishop g2, excellent.
Look at this.
Great tactical eye.
Oh, look at these.
And he's going to be playing for a win here. Knight, ooh. Tudor keeps the queens on the board. Very dangerous with such a king to do that. Black's knight is hopping around. I don't know about this. This is looking really scary.
And Danya, he only has 10 more seconds. The time gap has completely closed. This is going to be really, really tough for Tudor to win. And he had full control of the position earlier.
Yes. Now it's a 3-result. I mean, obviously it's a 3-result game, but I think black is objectively better because of White's extreme. Ooh, but he allows a queen trade, which White does not accept. But Tudor is playing for a win. He's like, no, I don't want to draw. I want to win. But I don't think he should be playing for a win here. I think he should be playing for a draw.
This is a very, very scary position.
Knight f4, knight e5. Okay, f4 now is a very strong move for White. And he finds
it. F4.
Knight comes back. 10 seconds for Tudor. And again, we have this.
And we still don't want the queen trade.
Still no queen trade, but this is again where Erdogmus thrives. And I have no confidence that Tudor will be able to play this without blundering. Knight c1.
Knight
Holy
c1.
Smokes, what a move. Oh, rook f4, and he's blundered. Erdogmus blundered.
And he sees it. Tudor sees it with so little time on this clock.
Okay, black has to take on f1. Now he plays queen e4.
And
but
he's
it's
just
still
up
not
a
over.
piece.
He's up a piece, but okay, queen c5. Now it's over.
No more Botas Gambit. Tudor's gonna win. This is insane. This would be the first game that Yagiz has lost. Oh.
Or is he? King d5. Okay, I mean, Yagiz is still trying, still fighting.
I mean,
maybe even rook c5. Wait a second. I mean, this is not elementary, because if black can trade off that last pawn, no, it's lost. It's lost. Okay, Tudor has this under control. Wow, very impressive.
We've seen bigger comebacks, but he's got it. Oh, and he wins the game. This is the first game that Yagiz has lost today, so it's
very
huge.
Impressive. What a game. And the composure to punish black's blunder. Knight c1, same idea, but obviously it didn't allow the rook to take the knight with tempo. So he spotted the idea, but not the execution. And the idea is you want to give the fork on e2. Instead, he took on f4. This was the wrong execution. And I think he missed the rook and drop back, hitting the queen. And, you know, for all my criticism of Tudor in time pressure, that time he managed to stay composed. The score is tied, ladies and gentlemen. It's 1-1. This one's not going to be easy. Well. Damn. Nicely done.
Yeah, that is a very important win for Henry Tudor. I think even if he had just drawn that, it would be very hard to come back from that. So this actually gives him chances in the game.
Yeah, and it's a great confidence booster. It's like, okay, I can do it. I've done it once. I can do it again. And, you know, the closer this match, the greater the chance that something crazy happens, because anything can happen in one individual game. So this is why Yagiz really needs to put in a solid performance with White. Okay, we have a Rogozin here. Kind of a pretty standard structure, I think. Nothing crazy yet. H3, good move, stopping bishop g4, which would have been a very nasty developing move.
And Danya, do you think the momentum will help Tudor here after getting that win, which must be very important to him? Or do you think it's going to take more?
Yeah, but his position's really bad now. I mean, I think he's misplaying. The knight e5 is coming in. I mean, 95 immediately was potentially crushing. 95 on the next move is also going to be very strong. So I don't like the way Tudor has gotten out of the opening here at all.
And we're really seeing outpost after outpost in these games. So it's a really good thing to remember, a very good instructional moment, for me especially. And we see it, knight e5.
Ugh. This is
Not a fan?
no. Bishop pair, knight e4, queen g3. In a blitz game, white wins this 19 times out of 20 because of just the extreme firepower in the center and all of the tactical opportunities you have on the king side. This will take just total precision to defend from Tudor, and I don't see it happening. Knight e4, maybe b5 there is what is giving Yagiz pause.
But also we're still not in the safe zone with time. He's down on time, which you really don't want against Yagiz. Even though he handled it well last time, you do not want to give Yagiz those extra seconds.
No. Okay, there's knight e4 as expected. b6, okay. He's trying to protect the pawn. Maybe a slow move, just like a3, queen c2. Just sit on the position. Don't do anything drastic. Maybe bishop b4. Just setting up some sort of bazooka on the knight on e7. I don't know. But I would play this slowly. Just try to milk some time off black's pawn. Maybe even f4. Which is committal, but really looks pretty decent, actually.
Yeah, that is a really interesting move.
Maybe
yeah, this is a huge thing.
Bishop h6 is a move here. You know, it's like all of your pieces are perfectly placed. It's time to start thinking about sacrifices. And I can guarantee you he's calculating this move. Bishop h6 and knight f6. I can give you a guarantee this is what he's looking at right now. Maybe knight f6.
You think he's going to play it?
To start. Yes.
Okay.
Either knight f6 or bishop h6 first, I think he's going to play. No, he plays his knight back to g3. Darn.
He was questioning it.
He faked us out. Okay,
but I think you're right. It might come in the future.
Yeah, knight h5. Okay, and here we go again.
Sacrifice. Sacrifice. It's always really exciting to see. And you know, if you see a sacrifice from Yagiz, it's scary.
Yeah, you just know that he's not messing around. Actually, there's a beautiful variation. Like if black plays b5 here, this is what I was trying to figure out. Maybe even bishop takes h6 in response with some fireworks there on the king side. Okay, rook fd8. All right. That's a good move. Tudor staying afloat. Not making it easy.
Just more preparation for that sack?
Yeah, he's just holding the, he's in a holding pattern right now. Is Yagiz, and he's sort of waiting for a blunder and waiting for an opportunity to slice through on the king side, which is a great strategy in this type of position.
I mean, that knight on g6 looks a little bit like it's defending, but I would be so scared. And Henry Tudor is down to equal time, which he does not want. From experience, he does not want that against Yagiz, and he's still thinking. What do you think he's considering, Ganya?
Queen e7 would be my choice. I would slide the queen over, try to get the queen to h4 and force the queens off the board. I mean, that would be a dream scenario. But he's just frozen. He doesn't know what to do. His position is horrendous. There's just so many things to keep an eye out for, and maybe he wants to go knight d e7, try to trade some things off. Yeah, queen e7. He finds it. Good job.
And in these like very uncomfortable positions, that's when it takes the most time to find the saving moves. But he really does not have that time. This does not look comfortable.
Lovely response by Yagiz. Bishop d3, bishop takes g6 is coming, and if black plays queen h4, then he'll be a pawn down. Okay, here's the sack. Bishop h6.
You think we're gonna see it? Bishop takes h6.
Clean combination. Bishop h6, bishop g6, and rook d5, and then a fork on f6. He's done it.
Let's see this beautiful sacrifice. 3 seconds.
And the last step, bang.
Oh.
And now he's up a pawn and crashing through. Rook d6 is great. Knight f6. It's completely
absolutely brutal. And with 2 seconds on your clock for Henry Tudor, I would say he's not going to survive this one, unfortunately.
No. Although Yagiz, not the kind of guy to take his foot off the gas pedal. Even rook d6 here is winning. He doubles rooks. Yeah, rook d7. It's over. Bang.
Look at that.
And
And he
huge
secures
win.
a win. But he needs to get to 2.5, right?
He needs a draw. Yeah, he needs a draw in this last round. He did lose with the black pieces in game 2, but something tells me, when you need to win on demand against a player like that, that's a very tall order for Tudor. His tournament might be coming to an end here.
It's going to be a comeback.
He needs a huge game. He needs a huge game. He needs to be perfect, and he needs a good position out of the opening, like the one that he had in their last white game.
But Danya, he is very capable of this. He just needs to be on. He needs to have one of the best games of his life, which he can do. We saw him beat Yagiz before. He knows he can beat Yagiz. So we'll see what happens here, but it's going to be very tough. Wow, look at them just blitzing out.
They're playing the same exact opening as in game 2, which means Yagiz, theoretically, okay, Yagiz in that game actually put his bishop on c5. So yes, there is a slight deviation. This time he exchanges his bishop for white's knight. And obviously, he damages white's pawn structure. Now he's probably going to go d6 and knight d7, knight a6, knight c5. Pretty easy position for black to play. I like this choice for Yagiz.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have to see some major aggression by Henry Tudor. Yagiz can just play solid. He can play easy. All he needs is the draw. So it puts so much pressure on the Tudor dynasty here to really be able to have some aggression, even in a calm position.
Great move, bishop a6. White has to lift the queen up to d4. Yeah, that's kind of an automatic move. But what does white do after c6? c6 here is so nasty because it opens up this diagonal. And yeah, I would play c6 in a heartbeat here. If I were Yagiz, I would not go rook e8. That is a very impulsive move. That's bad because it helps the knight get to an excellent attacking square. So big moment here. Can he find c6? If he does, I think he starts knocking on the door of a desirable result in this game. If he doesn't, he's worse.
Yagiz loves these middle game thinks. A minute-long middle game things. He just loves them.
It's his style. c6. That's the big move here.
c6. And he's calculating everything. Oh, and we see knight e8. Okay.
Very positional. He wants to bring the queen to f6. Also, actually not bad. I was going to point this move out. I wasn't expecting it at all. But very, very crafty little idea by Yagiz, trying to regroup with his queen coming to f6 and the knight coming over to d6 and putting even more heat on this weak pawn on c4.
Also, Henry does not want any sort of queen trade right now if he's trying to go for this win. So it might pressure him to making a very bad move. So he's really playing his opponent.
It's like a classical game. Now he's stuck in a long think, almost a minute now. And it's not clear what white should play, actually. Bishop f4, knight g3. There's a lot of candidate moves here for white, but there's no clarity on where your play is coming from. Knight e8 was an excellent practical move by Erdogmus. Okay, bishop f4 played. Okay, queen f6 would be my choice here. And maybe d6? I don't know. Maybe knight d6 even is possible. Oops, sorry. Okay, now black's turn to think.
And, Henry Tudor needs that think by Yagiz. He needs to be at least 30 seconds ahead of Yagiz to have good chances. And the time is pretty even right now.
Yeah, and now Yagiz with another long think. I mean, the players are spending 30 seconds a move minimum on the last couple of moves. This is not going to be sustainable for more than a couple moves. Knight d6, I think, is a natural move. Wow, knight g3. The computer ignoring the threats, but Tudor captures, and that is kind of a toothless move. He had to keep that bishop pair, I think.
Now
Yagiz is in control. Now Yagiz is in control. G6 and f5 restricting. The knight is great. Yeah, he's in good shape here. He's played it. Good job.
Yeah, and is this g6 move very decent because we don't have the dark squared bishop on white's side?
Yeah, if you planted a white bishop on h6, that's the end of story. As it stands, black doesn't care about the dark square weaknesses because there's nothing to exploit them. And I would argue that black's position is almost preferable here. Knight is amazing. His next move is queen f6. And again, he only needs a draw. He wins the whole thing with only a draw in this game. And this is looking really nice for him. Still plenty of chess, though, left to be played. I like this move by Tudor, preparing to double rooks on the e-file.
And we see it. And you know, Danya, Yagiz and Tudor both have nerves of steel up until it gets to a time scramble. But both these players know what they're doing, and we're seeing really good chess here.
Yeah, and Black has to try to swap this other pair of rooks. So Black has to try to plant a rook on e8. Maybe you need to enlist the services of your king, king f7. He goes the other way, king h8. I don't know about that. That's a strange
You think he's
move.
aiming for the g5 push?
Maybe. That's a good point. Maybe g5 is on his radar, but it's not on his radar anymore. King h8 was a terrible move by Erdogmus. And now h4, h5 is a huge problem for him. His king is in trouble.
Yeah, this looks a little bit scary. Maybe he was in bullet mode here for a second. Quick attack.
Yeah, he just made one of those, one of those impulsive moves like, oh, let's get the king to safety. And suddenly he's like, wait, what do I do? H5 is coming. Okay, he's trying to regroup. I like knight b7. It's a nice heads-up defensive move. And now he's got to get his king back to g8, I think. And just, enter a holding pattern. But suddenly, Black is almost collapsing. g5, okay. Endgame.
So he's just willing to take this slightly worse endgame, right?
My bad. I accidentally made that move. He played knight d8. That's my apologies. I mouse slipped. Can Tudor crash through here? Queen h6 and knight f5. Queen h6 and knight f5. I think white wins by force.
And he has 42 seconds to 8 seconds. This is the time advantage that Tudor needs in this position right now, Danya. He needs it to take control.
He's using it. I mean, obviously, he's calculating knight takes f5 either on this move or on the next one. And he's going to burn most of his time advantage here on this move. But he has to cash in. And he
knows this is his moment.
Fantastic. Check. 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 Knight e6. That was Erdogmus' idea. Bishop a4. Oh, queen a7. Okay, bishop c4, though. That was a sloppy move by white. Bishop a4 ended the game on the spot. Now Erdogmus is still in the game. Queen d8. Queen d8 and Black is still in it. Oh,
how do you win this?
I have no clue why Black just went to d7. But with 4 seconds left, he drops a pawn. He drops the bishop. Wow, Erdogmus uncharacteristically just like collapsing.
All of his pieces are falling. He must be really struggling in this kind of position right now. And look at Henry Tudor in control.
Bishop e6. And okay, queen c7, rook e7, bishop e6. And it's over.
Crazy.
Bang. It's over.
And he won
again on demand.
Look at that,
unbelievable.
Insane. We're seeing two prodigies at work right now, and the score is now even.
Wow. Which means we're going to overtime. Henry Tudor pulling out all the stops, winning 2 games with white on demand, essentially, and forcing this into overtime. This is exactly how upsets are made. You keep fighting, you keep staying in the game, staying in the match, and then suddenly, fortune turns in your direction. This is fantastic. And we're off. Next game underway. Tudor has the white pieces here. Very important for people watching. Because this is overtime, Tudor will have the white pieces in the first game, and Erdogmus will have the white pieces in the second game. If this mini-match is tied, then we go to Armageddon. Okay, finally Erdogmus plays something normal, a Slav.
He is tired with his old position.
Yeah, he's just sick of the whole b6 knight. He's like, none of that. I'm going to play real openings, and I'm going to tighten up the ship here. I'm going to tighten up the ship.
And, we've been complimenting Yagiz a lot, but just a reminder to chat, Henry Tudor is so strong. He's only been playing FIDE-rated tournaments for 3.5 years, and he's challenging probably the most talented or one of the most talented juniors in the world.
It's amazing what he's been able to do and how he's been able to conduct himself in the finals. And he's got a good position here as well. I mean, g4, h4, right? We've talked about him as more of a positional player. He's not quite as aggressive as Erdogmus, I would say, but in this game, he's demonstrating fantastic knowledge of typical attacking ideas.
King F2,
he's got a nice little advantage here. Yeah, Black is very passive here. Very passive. But also very solid.
Yeah, and you just need to respond to some quick threats, and he's keeping up on time a little bit, but Yagiz is not someone you want to underestimate. If you let the brakes on for 1 second, he's going to take control of this position.
Yeah.
What do you think is White's best attack here, Danya?
White's best attack. Well, I mean, ideally you would want to go g5, g6, but it's hard to achieve that because obviously g5, well, here we go, h6, right? Just stopping White from playing g5. Yeah, so it's a bit of a standstill. I sometimes have seen people getting the queen around to h2. Tudor drops his bishop back to b1, obviously preparing at some point, not necessarily on the next move, queen d3. And queen d3 is actually a very scary idea because black is not able to play the typical move g6. Actually, Erdogmus is walking on some hot coals here. He's got to be very careful because he could get checkmated here with a timely queen d3. Even now, queen d3 is possible.
That's a really interesting idea. Yeah, and it brings his queen's active. It's very scary here, but you think Henry Tudor is going to think for a second here. He doesn't want to mess up, but he has nerves of steel. They've been conducting themselves very well. This knight on f6, do you think it's defending against this queen d3 threat well enough?
Yeah, I mean, it's the only option you have, and you could also slide the rook away from f8 to, as a plan B, you can have a little escape path for your king. So if I'm Tudor, I'm not necessarily throwing all my chips onto the king side. Maybe a positional move, clamping down on some of these dark squares. He could do very well with a move like that. Because Yagiz at some point is going to try to open up the center. White does have this backward pawn on e3. And if the e-file opens up, if the center opens up, White's king eventually is going to get really uncomfortable. And that's exactly what Erdogmus is trying to do. He's going to go e5 here, I think. He has to.
So you just need to keep the attack, yeah.
No choice.
And he has more time.
E5. Yeah.
Are we going to see
I don't even really know what he's thinking about, honestly. E5, he's got to do it. Got to do it.
I mean, yeah, maybe something like knight takes d5, but...
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, you do not want to open up this position if you are a Tudor here.
Feels like black is taking over the game. It feels like Henry, there wasn't one big mistake, but it feels like he wasn't as decisive as he should have been on the king side, and now he's allowed this very typical idea to happen. And suddenly his position is showing some cracks, as is his clock. He's under a minute. He's going to have to navigate these complications very precisely as he takes on d5. I think we're going to get a trade, and then e takes d4, and then e4 might be White's idea to keep things, to try to keep things relatively closed down in the center.
Danya, as you often say, it looks like he's lost the plot here. He had such a strong attack, and now he's going to have to completely switch his mindset from winning and attacking to somehow defending this kind of difficult position, which is not super easy.
And both sides under a minute. It's basically a bullet game. Yeah, ED. No reason to overcomplicate it. If you're Erdogmus, just take the pawn. I think White has to play e4 here. I mean, you definitely don't want to open up the e-file. Yeah, but this is looking a little bit iffy for White.
And look at Henry Tudor's face right there in the camera. Head in hands. He knows he's facing some trouble. This is not the position he wanted to be in. He had this game. But like we said, you just take a second against Yagiz and he will completely complicate the position.
Yeah, very nice.
This is tough.
Plan. Okay, bishop e6 is natural. Knight f4, obviously. Have to move the knight. Whoops, sorry. I keep doing that. Knight f4, black to play. Yeah, he did not sacrifice his bishop to 3 different pawns. Instead, he played a very sensible move.
Honestly, if Yagiz sacrificed the bishop, I wouldn't even take it.
Because White's not done on the king side. And queen a5, yeah, very heads-up move because g5 was a huge threat. And if the g-file were to open up, the checkmate would be very, very swift. Okay, under 20 seconds. Tudor is in trouble.
Oh, no. Time trouble, too. And he has to think now. He's frozen. He has to move. He has to make a move. Oh, but he's completely frozen.
All of these nasty ideas, queen d2 and knight e5, and he's trying to find a way to fix them all. And he plays knight d3. Great move, but only 5 seconds left.
But yeah,
and
with this time
here.
pressure.
Queen e1, rook c3. Uh-oh.
Where do you go?
Uh-oh.
Oh
Uh-oh! What a tactic! Rook
Oh.
G3 discovery! And Yagiz is going to take... Oh, another one! This is bombshell after
This
bishop
is...
one, and it's over.
Oh, this is not good.
Bring in the demolition crew. That was awesome. And Yagiz
That
is
was
going to win
so
this. He's
cool.
up D3. Okay, bishop C6, also good.
Yeah, and now we just see the game goes to Yagiz.
Wow.
Wow.
How quickly did he found this in 1 second. Queen D2. The moment the queen landed on an undefended square, bishop G4 clearance sacrifice. F takes G4. The point is now you have rook G3 with a discovery on the queen. And he wasn't done. Rook F1, another one. Bishop H3. Again, you can't take the bishop. And again, for the same reason. This time it's on F3. Oh, that's a huge game. And
that
now
was
Yagiz has the white pieces and only needs a draw. Can Tudor pull another rabbit out of his hat? But
this is
time
going to have to be a miracle. Pieces. It has to be a miracle for Tudor here. And that is a tough loss because you blink. He just did a few queen reroutes and all of a sudden the game was lost. So this is a tough opponent.
He had a great position. I mean, Tudor was right there. He had a good position. That could have gone either way. And, okay, another long think here for Erdogmus. Obviously, we're still in a theoretical position. White can play E3. White can play E4. There's a lot of things you can do here. But maybe outside his comfort zone a little bit here. DC. That is not the most common move, actually. So Tudor kind of throwing him off with that choice. Good decision.
I love his middle game thinks.
1 minute on move 6 in a blitz game.
Oh, my.
You know, cold.
And, you know, he can get away with it too, honestly. But as we've seen, he actually did blunder in a time pressure situation. So you do have to be careful, even if you're someone like Yagiz who just thrives in this pressure environment.
Yeah, so this line, okay, black basically keeps the extra pawn. But obviously white is compensation. I mean, knight D2, you often see people playing this move at some point, trying to get a bishop to F3. Now, this is what you want. If you're Tudor and you want winning chances, you want an unbalanced position. You got it. Now you actually have to win it. Obviously. But
yeah,
Yagiz now down a full minute. That's a lot of time.
Which Tudor needs, honestly, to reclaim his monarchy from Yagiz III.
From the king, yeah, King Yagiz. The Yagiz
King
the Great.
Yagiz.
The king of Erdogmus.
The War of White Pawns.
Right, exactly. The 60 years en passant.
And it's just going to be really interesting to see how this goes down. But he's keeping on the pressure, and you know, this kid has nerves of steel. I'm surprised how well he's doing in these high-pressure situations, so...
Yeah, but now
I think he has chances.
White's going to land a knight on c5, and I'm curious how Tudor is going to answer to that. Knight e4 is coming. Yeah, knight e4. That's a big move if he finds it. He's down to a minute, though. I mean, Yagiz is amazing in time pressure, but he's still human. And, you know, this is still the opening, and he's down to a minute on the clock.
Yeah, Yagiz is just fantastic. And you know, he isn't someone who studies chess all day too. He was talking earlier, he has hobbies, he likes to watch soccer, he likes to have fun with things. So, you know, he's just very, very talented. He really finds these positions quickly, and it's clear both players love the game, which I think is the most exciting part to watch. You can just tell by their expressions how passionate they are about what happens on the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay when a kid doesn't lock himself into a basement for 23 hours a day and studies chess. It's okay when they have other hobbies and go to school. You know, all of that is okay. Now, bishop h5 check might not be okay for black, because bishop h5, g6, and then bishop takes g6 is going to lead to this material imbalance where white is going to take the rook on h8, but black is going to have two minor pieces. Very unbalanced position.
It's a tough decision to make for Henry right now.
But
it's 2 minutes.
And he does. f4, what a move. Fishing pole idea. Can't take the knight. F5 opens up, black gets checkmated. Great tactical awareness.
He's really got this in the bag. And like, but it's not quite in the bag actually, because look at this time difference, 2 minutes to 43 seconds. Yeah, I've never seen something like that.
Black had to play g6 because now the other knight's coming into e4, and look at these dark squares. That knight on e5 is actually perfectly safe. You can just chill on e5. You don't have to do anything with that knight. In fact, you could move your bishop up to g6. That is a lovely move, bishop g6, and right up Erdogmus' alley. He loves these types of moves.
And you see it.
Wow.
You really do know him. You've been playing him for a while. Bishop G6.
That is a badass move right there. Bishop G6. Both minors are hanging, and yet they're still defending each other. Oh, knight d5. What is he doing? Knight d5. No! Knight takes d5 was game over immediately. That was
he just moves it so quickly.
Sloppy by Erdogmus, but he's still winning. He still has a winning position, but now he has to demonstrate some technique. Yeah, but he's winning. And he only needs a draw. Bishop e4. Drop the bishop back.
And we see it.
No,
maybe
black
not even
is collapsing.
A minute and 20 seconds to think. Not even a minute up on time might save Henry here. He really needs a miracle.
He needs a flat out, one move blunder, which is not going to happen. I mean, he can't even really complete his development because of a takes b5 with tactics involving knight takes b5 at the end. At a minimum, at least. Just sack on f5. Just take that thing. Okay, he wants to play this very Soviet schoolboy style e4 without sacrificing anything. Also good.
This king does not look very safe right here.
Nope.
And it might be the Yagiz effect. You don't want to play something like g6 earlier against Yagiz because he's just a tactical monster. Like, look at this.
Yeah, I mean, this just comes so natural to f6. All these moves are automatic for him. f6 is coming next. Black is done. This one's over.
And now we're down
this
to
is
30
a wrap.
seconds.
He's going to win the tournament. He's got this.
You can't call it till it's done.
Yeah, but I'm going to bet my commentary career on the fact that he wins this game.
This does look right up his alley, these kinds of positions. He is so strong, but we see Henry fighting back. It's just probably too little too late, right?
He's just too lost. There's only so much you can do when you're checkmated and you've got no pieces and you're losing all of your other pieces. There's 8,000 discoveries against the Black Queen, and all of them win. And you can't even play CD because of queen takes b4 check, which ends the game immediately. And he finds it. Great whole board awareness. Just snap off that bishop.
This is beautiful, just how he's taking control of this position.
Oh, and he wins everything.
No! And the Tudor dynasty has fallen, ladies and gentlemen.
At long last. What a fight by Henry Tudor. He won 2 games. That's more than Yagiz Erdogmus has lost in all of his ChessKid tournaments combined. But ultimately, it wasn't quite enough. That previous game, Jules, that was close because White had that attack going. At one point, it seemed like Yagiz was floundering. And then, in the snap of a finger, just turns it around, wins that game, and wins this game in beautiful style. A deserving tournament winner, the youngest grandmaster in the world, 13-year-old Yagiz Khan Erdogmus from Turkey, is the winner of the ChessKid Youth Championships. What an event. What a performance.
It was an amazing performance. And you know what, Danya, I am so excited to see the 2030 World Championships between Henry Tudor and Yagiz. It's going to be really interesting, and it just shows how much talent both of these kids have. I think it just all this tactical awareness we were talking about with Yagiz, Henry Tudor's positional style, his end games. These kids really know what they're doing.
They do indeed, and obviously, as you said, one has the impression that this is not the last time that these two players face off against each other, and that's the great thing about these ChessKid events. They spotlight some of the youth, some of whom are still raw, some of whom still have work to do on route to the Grandmaster title and beyond. But Erdogmus has already done a lot of that work. His goal is squarely world champion. He's got the Grandmaster title under his belt, and he is a very, very impressive, very dangerous young player who's got a bright future ahead of him. We will have him on for an interview. We'll try to get him set up for an interview, and we'll share our concluding thoughts. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll have more action from the final phase of the ChessKid Youth Championship in just a couple of minutes.
Grandmaster Erdogmus just achieved the highest rating ever for anyone under the age of 13 with an ELO of 2570. The record was previously held by Grandmaster Judith Polgar, who reached a rating of 2555 back in 1989, also at the age of 12. This new peak rating was achieved in the Sharjah Masters Tournament in the United Arab Emirates, with an impressive 4.5 out of 9 and a performance rating of 2645, taking down strong grandmasters along the way. With Yagiz's rating increasing at breakneck speed, what record will he break next?
Welcome back to the ChessKid Youth Championships. Yagiz Erdogmus, the 13-year-old phenom from Turkey, has sealed the deal and claimed the title. Unfortunately, he's not available for an interview, but I think he has more than deserved his rest because he put in a really stable, solid, masterful performance yesterday and, of course, today as he defeated Henry Tudor in what turned out to be a nail-biter of a match that went to overtime. But
that was a
the
crazy
higher-rated
match.
player prevails.
Yeah, Tudor did absolutely amazing. Yagiz just came in with the win, showing that he truly is an amazing player. And you know, chat, you can say here first that you were seeing his games long before he was world champion. So that will be very, very exciting.
It will indeed. We will follow his progress very carefully in the years to come. He's knocking on the door of 2,600 FIDE, so obviously one of the top juniors in the entire world, one of the greatest hopes of this up-and-coming young generation that might end up shaking up top-level chess in the years to come. And on that note, Jules, it's time for us to wrap up. I'll pass it off to you one more time. Your final thoughts on these two non-stop days of action. We didn't breathe. I mean, it was game after game. It was intrigue after intrigue. It was an awesome tournament, and it was a pleasure commentating with you. Your final thoughts?
Yes, Danya, it was so exciting seeing these games, and one of the most promising things is the fact that each game was so exciting. Each game was fighting chess. It shows that these youngsters have a lot of style, and I'm really excited to see what they do even over the board in the coming future. I think we're going to see some very interesting chess from them, which, as an avid spectator, is very exciting for me. It was great being able to commentate with you. You know, I've been watching your commentary for years, so truly an honor. And I'm just also very honored to be here and be able to see some amazing chess. So thank you for having me, and I hope everybody enjoyed this amazing tournament. Thank you for rooting on these kids. They're going to do amazing things.
Thank you, Jules. It was a pleasure commentating with you. And a big shout out to our amazing team at Chess.com and ChessKid for their seamless work behind the scenes and ensuring an awesome broadcast. And on that note, folks, we hope you have a great rest of your weekend. We congratulate warmly Grandmaster Yagiz Erdogmus from Turkey. He is the victor, winner of the ChessKid Youth Invitational Youth Championship. And you will not want to miss the ChessKid Youth Championships Under 16 round robin, which takes place July the 6th, 2 days after Independence Day. And on that note, GM Daniel Radzimski and Jules Gambit wishing you a very pleasant rest of your weekend from the ChessKid Youth Championships. Goodbye.